Tabletopped will start after the following messages.
Are you looking for something comfortable to wear and keep your brain warm while playing tabletop games? Daily Dose of Yarn makes handmade, customized beanies for all of your style and comfort needs. She can even help you with a custom beanie to represent your favorite character. Check out Daily Dose of Yarn on Instagram and Etsy to order your new favorite beanie today.
My name is Cole.
My name's Kevin.
Very pleased to have been invited to do this.
Super fun. Sorry, I thought we were going to do that part too. Sorry, I thought it was like an answering machine thing. Okay. Yeah.
It's like an answering machine, but it's an ad on Tabletop Podcast.
Oh, okay.
One of the finest role-playing game podcasts of all time. As a trivia podcast who does a live trivia from Northern Ontario every single week, we sometimes ask questions about ttrpgs, such as Monster of the Week, Pathfinder, and D&D.
You do those, much to the absolute hatred of the crowd. For the most part, you do get beat up in the parking lot quite often.
If you're not the type of person who wants to beat me up in the parking lot, maybe check out Super Fun on Trivia and enjoy the rest of Tabletop Podcast.
Welcome back to Tabletop, everybody. Today we are doing another Under the Bed. We are talking about the Rakshasa. We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, who is here with me today? Some old favorites.
Hi, this is Franco.
And I'm Shade, just old, not favorite.
I'm also here, but I won't be participating too much. I'm Coronor.
Hey, Daniel, what's up? So today we're talking about one of Franco's favorite monsters. Franco, what monster are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about the Rakshasa. It's a pretty interesting monster. It has origins in Hindu scripture and legends. But I don't know. I have a couple of notes on that, but I guess we don't need to get too deep into it. Let me see.
Not yet. We should probably talk about too, like, why we all know. I mean, the Rakshasa isn't like one of D&D's poster monsters, is it? Or is it one of the more well-known?
I think it's pretty well known.
Yeah,
right?
I would say it's not the most well known for sure, but it is one of the more iconic in some regards.
Yeah.
So it's been in since the first edition and like well used, well loved by.
Yeah, I was recently, for the research for this, I was looking at like the OD&D stat block for the Rakshasa, and I was like, oh yeah, you guys got off really easy.
Why? So I mean, right now the Rakshasa is immune to spells below the fourth, fifth,
sixth level and below.
Yeah, that sucks.
The original D&D version was immune to 8th level and below, which is I mean, that's not fun, I guess.
That's a wild monster. What was the CR originally? Was it like the boss monster of a campaign?
I don't think they did CRs back then.
It was
right?
so different back then. But it was definitely something that could just ruin your day. I mean, so many monsters were that. They were meat grinders.
Yeah. You were ready to die every time you rolled the die.
So, in this current iteration of the Rakshasa, what's its stats? Like, what does it do in a campaign right now?
How I've used it is mostly in more social type of encounters. Like, you can do a lot of like really manipulative and weird stuff with the Rakshasa. Like, it can turn invisible, it can change its face, and it can fly, which is really fun. But yeah, I mean the immunity to like non-magical damage is also really big. So it's really good when you want to mess with like lower level players. And it's sort of it's got these like really brutal claws as well. Like it like curses you, and you can't like benefit from a long rest unless you get the curse removed. But it's just a remove curse, so it's not like a huge ask when you're at the CR 13, like when you're like at the level 13 and above, like it's not a huge ask. But if you are, sort of, you have like the Rakshasa around some lower level players, you can really use it to I don't know, kind of mess with them, which is what I used my Rakshasa for.
It also kind of feels like it could fill the sort of like Jason Voorhees sort of role in a campaign at a lower level where like they just can't hurt it.
Yeah, a little bit. I think a lot of what, the strategy in terms of combat, which I didn't really use with the Rakshasa that I played with you guys, was it just like running away and making minions do its bidding, like is really, like one of its sort of like a really good core strategy if you want to drag out the longevity of this like kind of, it's like, I mean, it's really a boss monster because it's like a mastermind type of creature.
Gotcha. Shade, what have you ever run one of these?
Yeah, actually, there's one in Waterdeep that you all haven't discovered yet. I mean, you've met him.
Amazing.
You've met him, but
Great,
you know.
cool. Oh no.
And I've ran it a few other times as well.
Is it me? Am I the Rakshasa?
Yes, I haven't told you this yet, but I've rewritten your character's backstory. You're a Rakshasa.
One of my favorite, dear audience, one of my favorite things is that Daniel cannot say the name of this monster.
Rakshasa.
Which has been really great in the campaign because every single time it's just his character like not caring enough to learn what monster has been hunting him.
Yeah, it's fine. It's only the blood oath that you took to destroy him. I can't even get your monster name right.
So you were talking that has a little bit of like origins in Hindu mythology. What is this creature?
So my admittedly very cursory research on this, it's very much like a creature that is, so like the Hindu origins of the Rakshasa, it's sort of a monster that, or I guess a creature that was, I feel like the origin was, I was really kind of vague on it, but it was like, it's a very, very old monster. It like becomes, it's described as like cannibalistic. It's described as being able to use illusion powers and invisibility and flight and shape changing. So all of that's in it. They do some stuff like drinking blood out of skulls. Like just really hardcore stuff. But in like in like Buddhist and I think it's Jainist traditions as well, like they are very different. Like there are also like good Rakshasas, and I think in Hindu stories there are also good Rakshasas, but that's kind of where Gygax got his inspiration from. Or rather, I also looked into this, but like Gygax apparently saw some like show in the 70s and there was like a Rakshasa monster and he's like, I'll base it on that. and it's just like, great, cool, whatever. But I think like the plundering of other cultures for D&D monsters is a topic for a different podcast episode. But I think, and the Gygax TV show link is also where we get the it's like vulnerability to piercing damage from good creatures.
Oh, here we go.
One of my favorite things about them, actually.
I think it's mostly just because I'm not a fan of alignments, and I think the way that I got around it with the Rakshasa that I made you guys face was I gave you like a blessed arrow. And that was the original D&D way to kill it, or to like it was vulnerable to blessed arrows, and those were harder to come by back then. Whereas now you can just have a cleric do a spell over a quiver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that I like about that damage vulnerability is it actually gives alignments weight in a way that isn't there always. You can say a lot about alignments, but they can do interesting things, and if you use them thoughtfully, you get really cool things like I'm a good person, so I deal extra damage to this devil. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. But the other thing is, none of you guys were, I don't think, could be argued to be good.
Our one good person we killed.
Yeah, the one good person was like going against the team, and it's like, okay, time to kill them because we're the bad guys. Which was great.
Yeah. Sorry, Daniel.
No, that was a good closing arc for that character.
To be sacrificed to the true villains of the story.
The irony is I was actually playing that lawful good character because I got tired of being the asshole character that is Abraham Washington, and I needed a break, and then I played the good character that did not vibe with anyone else at all at the table until eventually she was murdered for being too good.
She could have sided with the team.
Yeah.
It was KB 69. I want to say what it's called.
180, but yeah, 69's better.
which was played by Nick here, who was also like, I want to go against the party again.
Yeah, because my original character was sent to hell for everybody. But this new character was supposed to be sort of like to flesh out some of the backstory of the Kodama, which were like nature spirits, and it did put me in direct conflict with the group again.
It was great. Yeah.
And this little tangent was brought to you by Dice. Roll some. But talking a little bit more about the Rakshasa, one of the other things that really makes it scary, because we've talked about its magic immunity, but it is just flat out immune to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage from non-magical attacks. Immune. So,
yeah. And when you kill it, doesn't it just like goes back to the seven hells and then?
Yeah, it goes back to hell, and so the reason, so I like for the campaign that I ran or am running, Hespera was the name of the Rakshasa that I made, and I was reading the monster manual, and it said something like, Rakshasas can hold grudges for a very long time, and so I decided for the whole backstory for all of the characters was that like generations ago, like 600 years ago, your ancestors wronged this Rakshasa somehow, and he's just taking out this very slow, methodical, plotting revenge. And it's like Rakshasas are super petty. They, if they die, they don't like, you have to kill it in hell to kill it for real. And it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna come back and take vengeance on the people that killed me and wronged me forever. It's just fully petty.
That's the Mike Myers storyline, isn't it? That's just that's the slasher villain life.
Never seen it.
The cat demon monsters.
I'm not a big Austin Powers fan, so I don't really know anything about Mike Myers.
I mean, but Shrek at least.
Actually, that's a really big lie. I think I could say that I was a Michael Myers fan as a child. I was like, yeah, I love Austin Powers and Shrek.
We were all mostly raised in the 90s, so yes.
Everyone loves Mike Myers.
So Franco, you've talked a little bit about how you would use Rakshasas from your standpoint, but what's sort of the role they can play in a campaign, and what would you recommend for like a new GM who wants to use this type of character?
I recommend using it how I use it exactly, which is as like an initial quest giver, and then eventual person that screws you over, and then you have a little arc. And then the players feel betrayed, yeah, and everybody hates you.
I mean, that is a good way to do it. That's
yeah.
You could also, subvert that.
That's true.
Maybe
I guess you could.
Maybe this Rakshasa is just a friend. Maybe they do give the quest, but they don't screw this party over. But when they discover it's a Rakshasa, maybe that's something that is a moral quandary for them, or something that they're worried about. Why did they hide this?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
There's a couple of other cool Rakshasas in the, I don't want to say monster manual because they're not in the monster manual. In the game, there is this Zakya Rakshasa, which is like kind of like a foot soldier type that you guys also encountered. Mm-hmm. It's immune to first level spells and below. So a little bit easier, but it's more like, a little bit of like a foot soldier type.
Right.
And then there's Mordekash, or as you know him, the Bakasura, and he, is really, really great. You can replace one of its attacks with a spell, which is like is kind of my favorite way of doing action economies for monsters that are also spellcasters and are also like melee fighters. Is like, okay, it has multi-attack, but it can replace one of its attacks with a spell. Like is I think a more, I don't know, fun way to run melee spellcasters like that.
Yeah, giving a monster like a punch, zap is way more fun than just one or the other.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Here's a question for the group to sort of like branch out into our sort of pathos. If you had my god, the cat demon monster from hell.
Yeah. The Tiger Boy.
How do you think that would translate if you wanted to put that kind of a monster into a monster of the week or a powered by the apocalypse game?
I think that it actually moves over really, really well, because at least in Monster of the Week, you have to, or you don't have to, but it is recommended you give your monsters a weakness. And like the mystery that I could see here is like, there's this like tiger demon running around killing people, and then it's like, okay, we've shot it a bunch of times and it just keeps coming back. And so the actual mystery would be, how do we stop this thing for good?
I would agree. That's a really good question, because you could easily move this. It has iconic things, the ability to disguise itself. It's generally inherent evilness and sticking to a code, and then a specific weakness and a specific attack type. Those cursed claws,
And
all
it's
easy
fluffy.
to carry over. And it's fluffy. Oh, also we didn't
the
really
hand
talk.
thing.
We didn't talk about the hands.
The hand thing is a total like so it has like backwards hands, which is really hard to picture. But it's like its hands are on the other hand. I don't know.
So the thumbs are facing out.
The thumbs are facing out. Yeah, sure. Whatever way you need to. So with my Rakshasa though, I just made it have 6 fingers on both hands. I just wanted something like if you want to just switch it up with, like if you have players who have fought Rakshasas before, to like just kind of throw them off the trail a little bit, just give them a different thing, or like their feet are, backwards, or like one of their feet is backwards when they walk around, or they have 6 fingers, or they have 2 thumbs, or whatever.
Now I'm thinking about how to put this into a Monster of the Week story, and all I can think is like someone in a town has adopted a cat, and it's actually a Rakshasa, and the way that you have to find out is like its paws are on backwards.
Ooh, that's fun.
Oh no.
It's also a fun, it's like a different type of Rakshasa, like a quadruped Rakshasa.
Yeah.
Well, you said they were shape changers, right? So it could be like
It could
hiding
be
out.
acting as a cat.
Yeah,
The village was founded on top of its like shrine or its burial home, so now it's just in the village, taking out its slow, methodical vengeance against everyone who still lives in the town.
and everybody in the town likes to like in certain places, like they'll have like tiger faces on the back of you have sort of like tiger masks on the back of your head, or like eyes on the back of your head, so like tigers don't, or panthers, or big cats don't like stalk you and kill you and stuff, because they think that you're watching them.
Yeah.
So you could have that as a fun flavor too.
Yeah.
This is why people come to Tabletop, is not only do we talk about monsters, we also just build you a one-shot.
We're a writing club and a gaming group.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts about like what it can't do, things that you should stay away from when running this, or any final thoughts around the Rakshasa in general?
I think one thing I forgot to mention is like the shape changing thing is really just an alter self spell. Disguise self, yeah. Thanks. But I think it's more fun if it's just like it can shape change or whatever. And there's another thing that it in the original Legends, like it just becomes invisible. And I think also in OD&D, like where it's just like so if you want to like beef it up a little bit, like I did with Hespero, like I gave him like legendary actions because he was like a final boss monster. But if you give him like greater invisibility, like that's closer to how scary and terrible it was before. But I mean, like the immunity to 8th level spells, like that's too much. Some would say 6th level is too much, but not me.
We had that in a game that I was running. There was a monster that was immune to 6th level or below, and if you're having a party that's like a lot of spellcasters, this is definitely like a TPK red flag.
You were nice about it and let them hit with cantrips, and I didn't.
Yeah. So yeah, that cantrips, because technically they level with you, so you could argue that they might be more powerful.
You could,
just as
but
sort
I
of
didn't.
Everyone at the table just shook their heads very slightly.
It was very kind.
It was like a really nice thing that Daniel did.
Yes, because
that I didn't do.
We really should not have gotten into that fight, so that was very nice of you. But shouldn't have gotten into it all, Nick.
Wait, which fight?
Wait, the Grimdark fight?
No, this was the Lilith
Final
fight.
boss.
The Lilith had the immunity to 6th level.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I didn't know
below
she
too.
also had that.
Yeah, I grabbed that for her because I was like, well, yeah, she's spent her whole life studying magic. She's going to be immune to most things.
I did shoot the cannon that started that fight, but I just want to say,
Oh, that's
that
right.
it was.
You did.
It was widely agreed upon that we were gonna have to deal with her at some point.
I mean, he gave us well, I think this is very off topic. We could talk about this in a Vecna episode.
Yeah, because that was a Vecna remod, yeah?
Yeah.
It was just Vecna, which was very cool.
Yeah, so wait for the Vecna episode for that story.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was just going to say that's a good point about not having them be there for things that you're going to worry about TPKing, but also make sure that this is a monster that you want to make sure that your characters have magic items, or an ability to make their items magical.
Yeah.
Just because, boy howdy, again, immunity to any non-magical weapon damage.
And who gets magic weapon? Is it clerics predominantly who can cast that spell?
A few can.
Paladin has
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
My paladin was using it while you didn't give me a magic weapon when I joined the campaign at like level 15. I'm not sore about that. I just had to keep casting magic weapon.
I gave no magic items out in that whole campaign.
It's funny because it was
true.
like you didn't after you had given them too early, and then you're like, no magic weapons anymore.
I learned both lessons. I went on both sides of that fence.
On the other side of that, we are also a very large group of 7 people playing plus a DM.
Yeah,
so
it's a lot.
It's fine.
Contraindications for the Rakshasa. Don't run parties of 7 people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're great for smaller groups, bad for larger groups.
Yeah, 'cause
no,
they'll
that
just-
was still fun. Not
Yeah, I
bad.
mean, another thing is like if you have a monster that you think could TPK your players, give them an out, like give them a clear out, like just like across the board, like regardless of whether it's a Rakshasa or not.
Yeah, going back to an earlier idea, like if you were to use this as sort of like the slasher villain chasing the party kind of thing, it could be a lot of fun because then these, people literally can't do damage because they're too low a level, but you can still make it feel like exciting and a chase, and like Franco said, give them an out where like maybe their spells don't hurt it, but maybe it just like has to deal with the spell effect, so it's like has to like stop for a second and like blink or whatever.
Or maybe there's just a big pool of lava somewhere you could push it into, like
Ooh,
do
shit.
something
Very
like
true.
that.
Magical lava.
Yeah, magical lava.
Make it Terminator 2.
Yeah, I mean it's fire damage, so that'll hit it. That'll hurt. Oh shit, yeah. I guess you could just like throw a torch at it and it would do damage to it because it's not a non-magical weapon. Because it's not like bludgeoning damage. It
Or
takes
like
no damage from the
lantern oil.
bludgeoning, but it takes damage from the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to like find ways to damage it indirectly, oil burning,
my God.
That would
maybe
be so much
suffocate
fun.
it some way.
This is what Gygax envisioned when he made D&D with barely any rules and with like rules that didn't matter. And it's like, yeah, of course you would throw lantern oil at this thing and set it on fire. But no, we're all just relying on our spells and our
We've gotten weak.
we've gotten weak. We need to go back.
All right, y'all. Any final comments about the Rakshasa?
I think we've wrapped it up twice now, so
All right,
Pretty
that sounds
common
good.
thing that we do. That's fine.
Cool. Then thank you guys so much for talking to me about this tiger demon. We love the Rakshasa here at Tabletop, and I hope that you guys try it out and love it too. All right, see you everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Tabletopped. This podcast is available wherever you find yours. Tabletop is supported by our amazing sponsors and listeners like you. If you'd like to join them, head to our website at tabletoppod.com for links to our Patreon. We also have free things like our Discord server if you want to connect with the rest of the community. We also have details on upcoming episodes and guests, so definitely check it out. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Tabletopped. And everybody, if you could do me a personal favor, please like, subscribe, and leave a rating/review on this podcast. It makes a huge difference in trying to get people to find us, and I am just so appreciative of those who have that I'm going to read another one out today. This one is from The Book Devil, and they say, Nick and company have done such a great job explaining and exploring the world that is TTRPGs. Whether you're a pro, a newcomer, or someone who is just curious about the hobby, you're in for a treat. You know, I didn't know when I started, but turns out I was in for a treat. That's such a nice review. Thank you so much, The Book Devil. I appreciate it. Everyone, be like The Book Devil. Leave a review, and maybe you will be read on the pod as well. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next week for another episode of Table Talked.